Hey guys, we're having a heat wave in London at the moment, so I've got the window open, so there's going to be all sorts of noise, helicopters, aeroplanes, sirens, cars, motorbikes, whatever might be coming in. But I'm doing some backing up of some discs, so I'm sitting here waiting for that to happen. So I thought I'd do another quick Alchemy tutorial. I've been doing these when I have spare time, right? So in this one we're going to look at this performance area down here. Just show you the principles of how it works. Now you know if you choose one of the presets from Alchemy, each of these pads gives you a different sound, different variation on the overall patch. Etc. Right? And then these performance controls can adjust parameters of the synth, like that's the cutoff, that's the resonance. You've got your attack, decay, sustain and release for the main envelope here, etc. And then you've got these two XY pads here as well. So let's just quickly look at the principles of how all this works, right? We're going to go File and initialize a preset, which means we have a single sawtooth oscillator working. And this performance area is completely unpopulated, it doesn't do anything. Okay? Now, the 8 pads here store snapshots of how the performance controls are set. So you can't tweak the synth and store it as a patch. That doesn't work. These 8 pads store snapshots for the performance, right? So we've got to set some performance stuff up to then store as snapshots. Okay. So let's start with the filter. Now I've shown you all this in other tutorials. We choose the filter cutoff. That then becomes the target to be modulated here. And we're going to assign it to these. There are 8 performance controls here. We're going to assign it to performance control 1. Right? Now, again, I showed you this in previous tutorials. If I set this cutoff to 12 o'clock and then give full positive depth, then this control number 1 here, now controlling the cutoff, will control the cutoff from 12 o'clock all the way to its fullest extent positively across the entire range of this pot. But if I want this control to control it from 12 o'clock counterclockwise, make it negative depth. And if I want this control to control the full range of the cutoff, then I turn the cutoff all the way down and give it positive depth. Now I have the orange line all the way around. This control now from fully counterclockwise all the way to fully clockwise will control the filter across its entire range. Let's do the same with the resonance. Resonance, there it is as the target, assign it to performance control 2, this one. Again, I want the full range, so turn this all the way down, full positive depth, all the way around the orange line goes, which means this will control the full range of the resonance. Right? Okay, so now I adjust my, and by the way, these can be retitled. They're currently titled automatically as F1 cut and F1 res, because there's 2 filters here, the master filters, right? So it may be that I want to assign performance controls to the second filter if I bring that in, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use the one master filter there. So I'll just rename this one as cutoff. I'll just rename this one as resonance, like that. Okay, and now I can adjust these to get a buzzy sound. Done. Now I can store that on snapshot pad 1. Store current snapshot. Done. Right. Title it. Rename. I'm going to call this buzzy. Right. Okay. Now, if I want to copy this setting across to the next pad, this is the current pad with whatever the settings are here. I just do store this pad snapshot onto the second pad. Bam. And this is now buzzy as well, the same settings in the same positions. Now I can add to it. So let's add some reverb. Effects. On the main effects bus I'm going to add a reverb. Now I can't assign the on-off for the reverb as far as I know to performance control, but I can assign the mix. So I select the mix. That's the dry wet mix for the reverb. There it is, FX Master Bus 1 acoustic reverb mix, and I'll assign that to MIDI Performance Control 3. Right, turn that all the way down, give it full positive depth. Now I've got full control of the mix range from fully dry to fully wet on Performance Control 3 here, which I'll title Reverb. Right, that's now fully wet, no dry mix at all. That's fully dry. Okay, so now I've cut off resonance and some reverb. So buzzy with reverb, and I just store that. Right, and now I'm going to retitle this as buzzy wet. Then this one here I'm going to rename as buzzy dry. You getting it? So yeah, okay. Next thing, these envelope controls here are titled attack, decay, sustain and release, but they're not assigned to anything. But by default you can automatically assign them to the main envelope attack, decay, sustain and release. So we'll do that. Auto assign, auto assign, auto assign, auto assign, and now they are assigned to the attack, decay, sustain and release of the envelope. Right, so I could make let's copy this over, store this snapshot on pad 3, select it, and now I'm going to reduce the sustain. So it's pluckier. Store it. And I'm going to call this, rename, buzzy wet pluck. Okay, getting it? Now let's take buzzy wet and copy it to 4. Store the current snapshot on 4, so it gets copied over to 4. Select it. This is buzzy wet. The filter is there, the envelope to its default, and a bit of reverb. Now let's bring in something on the XY pad here, right? So we'll bring in the second oscillator and choose the volume for that oscillator. There it is. Volume B is the target, and assign that to the x-axis of this first XY pad. Perform XY pad 1 x-axis. Right? Full depth. Right? Turn that all the way up. That means the orange line goes all the way around. So this now controls the full volume range of the second oscillator. Now I'll detune it by an octave so we can hear it. Here we go. Okay. Now the y-axis we're going to assign to the detune for that oscillator. So we go to the second oscillator details where we get access to the fine tuning there, select it, that's now the target, and assign it to the y-axis of this pad. Perform XY pad 1 y-axis. Full depth. Now the depth here, as I adjust the depth, you see the orange line going around the fine tuning there. So I could roll it back a bit so there's not much range, and then bring that round, and the extent of the orange line now means that the y-axis here is going to control the tuning from here, that much detuned, to that much tuned up. If I want it to fully cover the fine tuning range, then I give it full depth and turn that all the way down. Now the y-axis here is going to control the fine tuning of this oscillator all the way from its lowest detune all the way to its highest detune, right? Like this. So in the middle of the y-axis there, the oscillator is tuned with no detuning. Push up and I'm tuning up. Drag down, I'm tuning down. And of course this is the amount of that oscillator. Store current snapshot. Right? And now I can retitle this buzzy wet detune. There you go. You getting it now? Now if I wanted to make a variation on that tuning, I copy this to there, store this current snapshot on 5. There it is. Now just adjust that tuning, so less of the oscillator but still tuned up, less of the second oscillator actually but tuned down, and then I'll just rename this 2. They're slightly different. Etc. Yeah? I can do whatever I want. With that selected, I could increase the attack. If I want to store that, I mean it remembers it, but if I want to store it, I just store. If I don't store it, then as far as I know, when you close Alchemy, that tweak I made to the attack won't be remembered, but everything else that was set on this pad will be. So that's how you assign performance controls to these 8 parts. The XY axis, there's 2 of them, and you can then set up these presets you can jump between, and at any time the performance controls work to allow you to, and these can be assigned to hardware controllers obviously. Yeah. That's the principle of how it works. Now you get that, you should be able to go off and experiment. Alright, see ya.